Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show over on Twitter at Oddball Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Mighty Vin. Follow me over on Instagram at Vin Forte NYC. If you like what you hear, go subscribe over on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Well, I guess you can on Stitcher. I just got an email from them, I think yesterday, saying that they're going out of business. Something like that. I don't know. I think Stitcher's going away, but if you can still subscribe on Stitcher, I guess do, and then migrate over to Spotify or Apple so you don't lose it. I don't know what I'm saying. Don't use Stitcher. No one uses Stitcher. Why do you think they're going out of business? But if you're only listening, there's a new YouTube element to the show. I don't know why I'm calling it an element. It's a video. YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. The original. The one that's been here for 2 years. Not the new one from the Dan Le Batard people. To answer the people who have reached out to me on social media, yes, I have DM'd with them. There is no beef. Nobody's going to do anything. They're aware of me. I'm aware of them. And two podcasts with the same name can exist at once. It's okay. Speaking of things being okay, everything is right in the world because we've got a man back to do his monthly spot, Mr. Martenzie Johnson from ESPN, Andscape, Around the Horn, ESPN Radio. He's doing the the bad man, the man we don't speak of.
I'm taking it from him.
Take it from him. Why not?
The least that he can do is give us that.
Yeah, give something back to the community. Have you seen these videos of? I saw it just yesterday. Someone posted a video of Hulk Hogan in Japan, where I've seen this before. People go, "Oh, when he was in Japan, like it shows he actually did know how to wrestle." And it's like he was a little better than he was here. But it was not like he was like doing step up insigiri's and like Hurricane Ron.
Yeah.
Like he was not going crazy.
Yeah, I didn't see that come around this time, but I saw it 5-6 years ago. And I gotta say, it was like that picture, that double-sided picture of Alex Jones, where like it's supposed to be a before and after, but it's the exact same photo. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Like, and maybe I'm hating just because Hulk Hogan is a racist, but he never was that great to me. And seeing those clips of him supposedly being better, it's like people saying, "Oh, AEW wrestling is so much better." It's the same thing, people. And just like with this, Hulk is just his normal, mediocre wrestling self.
I don't know. I think we're both a little younger than the people who were like a little older at the time to be really into Hulkamania.
Yeah.
But like, I just never gravitated towards Hulk. Like, I thought, I was like, who's this big, bald-headed? Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah, my introduction to him is NWO. I didn't start watching wrestling until like 97, 98. And I was like 7.
Yeah, that's when like he really resonated with me. But even then, it's like it felt like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were cool. Yeah. And even as a kid, it felt like we're taking this thing that wasn't cool, and now like we're the ones making him cool. Like he's not cool with the weird like painted on beard, but still with the yellow mustache.
Yeah, I was gonna. So actually, you just posed a question I've been searching for an answer for like 2 decades now. So that wasn't him growing in his natural facial hair and dyeing his mustache or handlebar mustache blonde. That was painted on shenanigans, is what you're saying?
I can't say for 100% certainty. I didn't look it up, but it looks, if that's real hair, that's some weird hair. But then, like, if it's painted on, how come it never like smudged? Like, what did you use to paint it on?
Yeah, Vin, you're not a black man, but there's a such thing called, we like to call Beijing. It's just us mispronouncing whatever the product is called, but like it's to fill in your hairline. That seems like that's what he's using, but that's the bleach.
Okay.
So, like you said, it looks fake, and it doesn't make sense if this was still blonde, the handlebar mustache, and his hair was obviously still blonde. Though I don't know when he started the shenanigans with his hair either. But then for the 5 o'clock shadow to be black, even though like what's his natural hair color? Do we know?
I think it's blonde. Like he's always just been blonde.
So then how was it black? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think he did the black beard because it's like, oh, NWO, like we're the bad guys. Well, like you know me as the yellow hair. I'm going dark now. The black shirts and the black everything.
Yeah. I just want you to know I'm Googling Hollywood Hogan fake beard.
Let's get the answer to this.
Oh, yeah, that's fake. And
yeah, right?
That's crazy. Yeah. So for my entire life, I was just like, oh, he found a way to like grow in. And sure enough, that shit is completely painted on because, again, might be shenanigans too, but like he has a full beard sometime more recently. I don't know when this photo was taken, but the whole beard is a whitish, blondish color.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, breaking news. I didn't know. I never really guessed that.
News on Hulk Hogan's beard.
Yeah, why didn't he just grow out the blonde? I guess he would look like Santa if he just had a.
Well, yeah, I don't think it would be as. Maybe they tried it and they were like, "This does not look intimidating."
Yeah, then go like brunette. Then like going straight black seems. But he tricked me. But granted,
there you go.
I was a child. Yeah.
Well, the NWO tricked everyone. Like, remember, talk about things that don't hold up or that are like way baffling now. And I apologize that this is all like wrestling heavy, but whatever.
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? Wrestling is a sport. Don't at me. Do you remember the 1997, the first sold out pay-per-view?
I remember it as in I know it happened, but as far as who was on the card and stuff, no.
Okay, so the whole angle of this sold out pay-per-view is that like the NWO is taking over WCW. It's like an NWO specific pay-per-view. Yeah. Like we're gonna have a crooked ref. It's gonna be WCW guys versus NWO guys, and like the commentary team was different. It was like Ted DiBiase with all the money on commentary, and it's like, okay, cool, I can get behind this. This is like a logical, interesting step in the NWO saga. But the things they did to be like, yeah, we're counterculture, we're cool. Like they rode into the event on a garbage truck.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, we're stinky. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah. And then they did a Miss NWO pageant, like throughout the show. But all the women were like, I mean, there's no real nice way to say it. Like they were just like frumpy, older Midwestern wives, like motorcycle wives.
Oh, I'm from Wisconsin, Vin. I know exactly what type of woman you're referring to. I don't even got to look.
Like, exactly. And they made out with Eric Bischoff at the end. Like that was like the reward.
Yeah, of course.
And just every match was like a screw job finish. It's fun if you want to do an episode of Nitro like that. But if you're paying like $40 for a pay-per-view, that is just shenanigans. It's like those MF Doom shows where you just sent an imposter.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Again, you're reminding me of stuff that I forgot that people pay for pay-per-views before.
The no premium live events.
Then. Yeah, good luck with getting that over. But I forgot that people pay for that stuff, and either that event or any of the other ones that WCW or WWF at the time or WWE now half-assed. Like I would be furious if I paid $60. And you aren't even doing compelling storytelling. You're just doing bullshit. And another point is, I know you're asking, well, then if you never pay for these things, how did you watch? Because I had a legal black box. I didn't. My father did. I won't say his name so he doesn't go to jail. But I watched all that stuff for free, Vin. Never paid.
Everyone in the neighborhood. There was always some kid in the neighborhood whose family had a hot box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like the one person who had the hot box would like make a VHS copy of Backlash, and then we would all watch it the next day. Like, there are ways to get around it.
The good times. But no, yeah. So I do because the video game was sold out too, right? They had
the video game was WCW NWO Revenge.
Revenge, yes, I do. Now I got that for Christmas. That I do recall heavily, but yeah, I can picture the sold out because SOULD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
LED. Yeah, I can picture it, but yeah, for a lot of stuff with WCW, I remember Sting and Hogan vividly. I remember
Mm-hmm.
Hogan and Goldberg vividly. I remember Kevin Nash. I didn't watch that one live, but Kevin Nash and Goldberg, I heard about it before I watched it. And it turns out people really didn't like that. I thought it was funny. And I think that's what they were going for. Like, what would a kid think was an entertaining finish to a match? Yeah, of course, hitting them with a cattle prod.
Yeah.
That's the only way you beat someone who's 100 and whatever and you got to resort to shenanigans. And that was a funny way to do it. But apparently that did not age well for people on the
No. People look back at that and they're like, we wanted a clean finish. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm of the era where it's like sports entertain me. Like I fully embrace the sports entertain, like what they're doing with the bloodline right now. The people that hate, you're exactly. Everyone get your ones up, but there are some people who hate this bloodline storyline, and they're all AEW fans, but
of course
they're all like, I don't get it. How can you watch the same thing over and over again? It's like, but it's not. It's a slow burn. Like they did an interview with Seth Rollins recently. I think he was on like Logan Paul's podcast, but I just saw the clip where he talks about like, do you people realize that this has never been done in wrestling? Or like if it has been done, it was like before like the TV era, where we've had a storyline 3 full years now where it's captivated people. Whether you personally like it or not, enough people, and the ratings show it, have gravitated to this storyline that they've been able to ebb and flow with it for 3 years. Like, what storyline where someone's got the championship and then gets more championships and then gets handed a third championship for some reason?
It doesn't
like,
have to get back the other two.
That was my favorite. See, that's sports entertainment that I love, where the Triple H goes through. He's like, "Hey, you got those 2 belts? We're gonna consolidate everything. We're gonna give you this gold belt." And then Triple H has his hands out, like, "Okay, now you give me those belts." And it's like in the sense, it's like, "What belt? What belts? Now I've got 3 belts. Now, what are you talking about?"
Like you said, it's been 3 years of this, and to make it clear how I don't use the word over, but it makes sense in this case, how over Roman and all of this is. Outside of John Cena, like you can't see me type memes, this man is all over TikTok from various things that he's done, not even in the last 3 years. I'm pretty sure most of it is from since like WrestleMania that they've turned into memes of him. And if that isn't like the essence of we found gold, I don't know what is. And if you're hating it, what you can't tell me a Cody Rhodes program is better than this. You can't tell me Drew McIntyre or whoever the fuck. Like, this is the most entertaining thing going on right now. And until you find me something better than it, let them go for 4 years. It doesn't, the championships don't matter, you all, for one. But for two, if there's no better story to tell right now,
then keep telling this.
Why? Yeah, to keep going with this one until people they had people waiting on bated breath for Jey Uso to beat this man, even though we know that's likely not to happen. It would be great if it did. It would be a great moment, but I'm okay with him not beating him either. Like this is just, at this point, it's just funny, and like as long as it goes, I will be entertained. And when it starts to die off, then you do it. But it's red hot right now. Keep it going, baby.
Yeah, and sometimes I just don't think people know what they want or like understand why they they don't understand why they want something. Yeah. Like last night, Dominic Mysterio won the North American title on NXT. They had people who don't know, Finn Balor's got he's got spoiler for NXT. They got this faction on the main roster, Judgment Day. It's like Finn Balor, Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio, who is one of the biggest heels in the company in wrestling right now.
Yep.
But again, people who are not like hip to the program look at him and are like, "Oh, he's just a bad wrestler, and he sucks." And it's like, yeah, but you hate him, and he's supposed to be hated. When he comes out and he's trying to interrupt, I don't know, LA Knights promo or whatever, the whole crowd, like, you had the whole like O2 arena, like booing him.
Yeah,
that's what you want. What you don't want is indifference.
And that's what a lot of their favorites are. I don't mean to come in here, parachute in and shit talk the internet wrestling community, but that's all. Like every person that they're certain is a star, WWE or AEW or whoever gives them a push and nothing happens because they're good wrestlers, but like they're not good entertainers. And you made that distinction earlier, I believe, but like this is about entertainment, man. This isn't about necessarily who is the best wrestler. That's like saying the best basketball player or the best basketball game is the one with the most dunks. We know that's not true because people hate the All-Star game, right? And so this idea that just because like Cesaro, I love Cesaro, but we've seen it enough times to know he just ain't got it in that department, which is fine, right? But like the Gargano and Tommaso, like those are two best examples I have. I love watching them wrestle; they're great, and they're
and when they had that feud, that was an amazing storyline because it took both of them and what they do. You know, this is very short selling them, but like the thin level of charisma that Gargano has.
Yep.
They utilized that and spun gold. Now, when you're done with that storyline, and the question is, what do you do with Gargano now on the main roster? They haven't figured that out yet, and that's a problem. I don't care how good he is in the ring.
Yeah, and it's Tommaso too. It's like if they're not LA, I'm sorry, that's if they're not something close to what LA Knight can do on a microphone, it's kind of hard to sell them outside of wrestling ability, right? And I saw that in NXT where I was like, they're nice, but like I don't see anything that's like it's clear they're gonna be superstars here. And sure enough, that and the injuries for the latter of the two, but either way, it just hasn't worked because there's more to wrestling. Like Roman isn't the best wrestler, we know that. And early on, it was rough in that singles run, but he's gotten that together, and more so than anything else, he's gotten the crowd work, promo, steely look, telling the story, all this. He's gotten all that, and like we're reaping the benefits of it now. But if
that's the other side of being a wrestler. Like people think, oh well, this person's a better wrestler because they're a better in-ring technician. It's like, no, half of being a professional wrestler is the crowd work, is being a personality, doing all the stuff, all the little things, down to like what's your intro, what's your clothing, do you have any lines that can pop the crowd, what's your personality? That stuff is almost more important than there's a million wrestlers who are great in ring right now. We are at no shortage. You can say we are at peak pro wrestler right now in terms of in-ring work. Like there's no shortage of anyone who can go out and have a banger. Yeah. But do I care about that person having a banger match? That depends on who it is.
Yeah. We lack characters right now. And that's been said, I think, at least for WWE for a very long time. And now so that The Undertaker is gone, we really lack it. But there's no pimp. There's no mortician. There's no barber. You know what I'm saying? It's just all, as they would say, flipping kicks. And that's fine. And that's amazing to watch. But I don't think we all want, and this is no disrespect for him, he's just an example. I don't want to see a bunch of Ricochet shit for 3 straight hours. You know what I'm saying? Like eventually you're going to want more than that. The
Ricochet's got to show me a little bit about himself.
Yeah. He's another example, just like Gargano, where it's clear he has trouble talking. Cedric Alexander was another one. All the ability in the world, great to watch, but they're lacking something. And that's fine. But if you have someone who has that, which Roman and Jay, to a lesser extent, Jimmy and Solo and Paul Heyman have, unless you can give me that, why else? Who else do I want to watch in the main event? No one. Not even Brock Lesnar. Not anybody. Like this is everything that you want in wrestling, including very good matches. Almost every single time. I don't know if he's still been on that run, just because I haven't watched much Roman, and Roman ain't wrestled that much. But after, I want to say like 2016, 17, he went on a nice little run where he was giving you nothing but great matches. Still couldn't talk that well, but he got better as a wrestler, obviously. And now he's melded the two together. And we don't have to keep talking about wrestling, but Roman is great, and he can keep it for another year for all I care. I'm having fun.
Well, you mentioned the idea of, do people want to see a certain product? Are people going to be interested in a certain thing? And that brings us nicely into this little
Yeah.
shindig here, which the in-season tournament. I did a whole thing on it last week, but we'll get into it again right now because you're here. And what is your perception of this in-season tournament? People have wildly different opinions on this. What's your bottom line on this in-season tournament?
2 words: cash grab. That's the most obvious
Yeah.
thing for the NBA to just want a ratings boost for something like this. I just like the play in. At first, I probably wanted to hate it, and I thought, why is this necessary? They have been talking about this for 1 or 2 years, I think, at this point, and I didn't get it. I'm not a big international soccer watcher viewer, and
Mm-hmm.
so I understand that they do this in that sport. They just introduced it to the WNBA too, but I know nothing about it, so I didn't understand what the purpose of a tournament was. Then they first explained it, I didn't get it, and then they had the Richard Jefferson explanation. Now I got it. And look, does it add anything to the product? I don't think so. But if the players take it seriously, and I do think $500,000 each to the winner, they're millionaires. You
But
might
it's still
think,
five
oh,
hundred
that's
thousand
nothing to them, but
dollars.
it's still five. They're in Vegas. They could just take that check right then and there and just go blow it and feel nothing, right? And so if they take it seriously and it's competitive and it's like it feels like a do or die game in a championship game on December 9th, then I think it's a success. But the only thing is, if this turns into the All-Star game, just in the sense of we don't really care, this doesn't mean anything. Especially, I think the championship game doesn't count towards, or maybe it does.
No,
But either way,
the championship game is actually the only game in the tournament that doesn't
that
count towards
doesn't
the
count.
regular
So
season.
there you go. And so that could be an issue because then they're like, well, if I lose, who cares? It doesn't count towards anything anyway. You win essentially just by getting to the championship because that's actual regular season games that count.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have to see it happen first, but I don't hate it as much as I probably would have had I not, given it some more thought.
Yeah, like a lot. I'm hearing a lot of people go, "Oh well, this is all well and good, but what does it mean? Are people going to hang a banner if they win the? I don't know, maybe, but nobody's saying this is the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Like sometimes a pipe is just a pipe. Like
Yeah.
sometimes a tournament is just like, hey, we want to do a fun new thing, and we're hoping that going back to wrestling last week, I used the analogy of sometimes the belt makes the man, and sometimes the man makes the belt. And they're hoping in this case that the man makes the belt. That, yeah, it's nothing now because we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But if we get to the knockout round and it's like, Lakers versus Celtics or, the Knicks are making a big run towards getting any kind of championship, like you're telling me Knicks fans wouldn't go wild about winning this? Like they could poo-poo it all they want right now. But if it gets to December 9th and they're in any kind of championship game, they're going to go nuts.
Yeah. It sucks because we're talking about partly here the internet, and we know how the internet works, Ben, is that a team, let's say I'm looking at let's say the Orlando Magic. That's the first team that I saw when I looked up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they win this thing. Their fans are hyped, just like, yeah. Inaugural winners of the play-in. And then they don't make the playoffs, and then people just start throwing it in their face. Well, at least you got the banner. So the thing I don't want people to do is it's fun. If your team wins, great, yada, yada. But don't put any stock in this. It means absolutely nothing. Don't use this as justification for in your power rankings why this team is higher than this one. Don't say, oh, because who's the favorite going into the season? I imagine the Suns or the
Nuggets.
The Nuggets. Just because they win the in-season tournament doesn't have anything to do with what's going to happen in June, right? As long as we don't do that, which I know we will, but as long as we don't do that, I have no issues with anything. But it's going to turn into a whole thing, just like the play-in. I still make fun of the Timberwolves, and it's been over a year since they were. You know what I'm saying? But at least with that one,
meme with the Aloe Black song,
yeah,
everyone.
But at least for that one, that had actual stakes in that they made it to the playoffs because of that.
Yeah.
We don't. I will celebrate this in a moment. And that if it's a great game, like you said, if the Celtics and Lakers play in this, even if these Celtics and Lakers aren't what we think of as Celtics and Lakers, that's a win for everyone because it's going to have all those histories together. And then for bragging rights, especially for the first one, I don't know how the fifth one's going to go, but for the first one, I think everyone will think, and it's going to be a great game. It's going to feel like an NBA Finals Game 7 game. I can guarantee you that right now, especially if it's two good teams. But beyond that, let's just have fun for that week and say it was a success and celebrate the NBA for that. But after that next week, it doesn't need to be discussed for the rest of the season because it has no bearing on nothing. It's just a regular season game.
Right. I think the NBA knows that. Like they're hoping. The only thing they're not hoping that this tournament becomes like as prestigious as the Larry O'Brien show. Like they're hoping that in the month of November, on Tuesdays and Fridays, that instead of not watching a game, you're gonna go, oh well, you know what? This is one of those group stage matches. Maybe I'll tune in. If it's late November, you're like, if they if my team wins this one game, like they go to the knockout round.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll tune in. Like that's all they're hoping for. They're not hoping for, this to be something that turns their entire fortunes around. Not that they need it to, but like they just want a tournament. They just want to do something a little new, a little interesting, a little fun, something to zhuzh up the early part of the season.
Yeah, like I said, my previous self, my more cynical self, hated stuff like this before, but I'm like, this could be fun. Why don't I just look forward to it? I got the play-in wrong. I think a lot of us got the play-in wrong. Mm-hmm. That's great. It was probably one of the best decisions the NBA ever made, and I vividly remember how the collective of us were like, "This is stupid. What are we doing?" And now,
because you don't know it
without it.
Because you don't know it until you see it. Like, even going back to 2020 before the pandemic, when they reconfigured the All-Star game. Now the All-Star game still has issues, and you could argue that this past year was maybe the worst of all time, as some people I've heard have argued. But that first year they rejumbled it, people were like, "What's this? Like the Elam ending? What is this? Like each quarter is going to be its own game? Like throw this out." And then you see it in action, and you're like, "Okay, I see what they're doing here."
Yeah. My beef with the All-Star game, I like the Elam ending, even though most of these games have been blowouts by that point, so it was unnecessary anyway. Especially adding the 24, whatever number it is, it doesn't mean anything if you're already up 50. But my beef with them is I need to be East and West again.
Yes.
With the players choosing the draft, I get it. I don't have much fun with that, to be quite honest with you.
If you're gonna do any kind of bragging rights, I want it to be East versus West. I don't care if they're playing a pickup game.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be beef between the East and the West, not beef between teammates on the same team. Like it doesn't make any sense. We could get on the jerseys. The NBA, I don't know what the NBA is doing, quite frankly, with the All-Star game, but I need it to be East and West. I don't want to be confused anymore.
I think it's down to the players again, because I hate to be that person that's like, oh, well, the players aren't doing things for the fans anymore. But I think the All-Star game is one of those cases. And I feel this way specifically because I just got done watching the WNBA All-Star game, which was actually pretty good. Yeah. It was really fun. And I was like, what's different between this game and the NBA All-Star game? And the difference was the WNBA All-Star game, they were all there and they all wanted to show out. Yep. They all wanted to look like an all-star. And it was fun. And like when people were going for a big dunk, the defense would back off a little bit, but at the expense of someone going for a big dunk. Like the NBA All-Star game, it just looks like they don't even want to be there.
No, it seems like it's become exhausting for them, to the point where he's not. I don't remember who said it, but one of the rookies, I believe, from last year said, "Well, if we get paid, maybe." in fairness, you already get paid, but
I
I
was
can
gonna
see
say, like,
what
yeah,
he
you
means
get
by
paid. It's
that.
part of the deal.
But it doesn't seem. It seems more so like being named, like all those years of the Devin Booker stuff, right? Of him not being one, and quite frankly,
Yeah.
him being upset about it. Every year, whoever's quote unquote snubbed, that player is upset about it. But it seems like they more so want to be all-stars rather than play in the all-star game, because the same sort of people who complain when they don't get selected, they get in the game and they're half-assed. And that, so maybe they do need to create an incentive, because otherwise it's about the appearance rather than the actual play. And for them, like, I want to be invited, I want to be considered one of the top, I think, was it 30 players in the NBA, rather than, hey man, this is the one time a year where all fans can see the best of you playing in one game. Which, again, I don't need this to be 90s Pistons and Bulls. I don't need that. What I
No,
do
but
need, though,
in
is
the
to look like you
'90s, you
care.
had people who, again, like, even if it wasn't like a big defensive showcase, it was Shaq wanting to show that he could maybe break a rim during the All-Star game.
Yep. It was Shaq dribbling the ball. Like, show me. Well, see, the only problem is Shaq dribbling the ball was an anomaly. Now every single big man can do it. But show me some, like Steph Curry dunking. Do that, right? Every big man can shoot a three too. It's just hard to. They all meld together
Well,
at this point.
the one proposal I've heard that I do think would be worth trying is this idea that they turn the All-Star game into like a mini dream team matchup where you do NBA versus the world.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would necessarily pick the people from around the world, but maybe I don't
There's
know.
a yeah,
There's a way to do it.
yeah. So it would be difficult, logistically, let's just say, because there's not an even split of 15 American All-Stars and 15 All-Stars who come from a different country. But if you just say, okay, whoever's voted in All-Star, great, but we'll choose our teams as far as the USA dudes and the international dudes. But there's enough. I mean, have you seen for FIBA, like, the difference between the US roster and the Canada roster? Like, there's enough talent out there outside of the US where, again, if LeBron and Steph and all of them are on one team, then you have no chance. But as it's currently constructed, where the best players aren't even going, the other teams, the other countries could beat us. If not beat us, even go beyond that, beat the shit out of us. Because Team Canada looks
but that's
very
the thing.
good.
Like, if you had an All-Star game where now it's suddenly the NBA versus the world, that would create some kind of bragging rights where it's like, hey, do we really want to get beat year after year by Team Canada?
Yeah, that's true. You got, like, again, you got to incentivize these dudes, and unfortunately, the easiest way that you can do that is like to attack like their ego or their manhood, and that goes from, oh, these dudes are better than us. So however you can make that, whether it's I don't know if we're saying the same thing as far as NBA versus the world, but either way, the American NBA players versus the non-American NBA players. I think that would be great, because from my understanding, just based on how players tweet about Jokic, how players tweet about Giannis, how they tweet about Joel, in that they don't. I don't think that they would want to lose to the non-American team, to be quite honest. And with Luka, with Jokic, with Embiid, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with Giannis, it's not as easy as one would think, right? And I think that they would actually have to give some effort to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stick on the NBA for a little while longer.
I love it. Yep, can't go wrong.
What is going on in Portland right now? Because I feel like this is one of those things where, like, two things can be true at once. Where I think Damian Lillard wants to keep his good guy reputation.
Yep.
And some people are trying to tear him down, being like, oh, well, see, like, now he wants to, go and be with the team that was just in the finals. And I come in somewhere in the middle where it's like, do I believe that he loves Portland and would love to stay there and win a championship?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, I guess the lesson is don't speak so loudly, where in the past he was the guy that was like, oh, these super teams, like I'm loyal, I'm loyal to
Yeah.
this place. I'm not gonna, desert them. And it's like now you want to jump to Miami, and my only problem with that is that that's your only option.
Yeah.
That you didn't give the Portland Trailblazers any other options. Like you're not telling them like, oh, can you get me in Miami or Boston? Like anywhere else, literally just anywhere else. Like because for as much as people love Dame and they're like, oh yeah, uh, the past couple weeks I've had to hear everybody tell me, oh well, why can't they just do what Dame wants them to do? Like
Yeah.
I was listening to the radio show and even like the beat reporter, I forget his name, for the Trailblazers were like, oh yeah, well they should just give Dame what he wants. And it's like, why? They have a whole franchise to worry about. So like, it's screw Chauncey Billups and Anthony Simons. Like just because Dame, doesn't they shouldn't care about getting a good package back for Dame.
Yeah. On the what? So I look at it for two ways. More so the latter than the first part I'm going to talk about. Where the NBA teams, the general managers, the front office, they've had all the power for this entire time, and the idea that they could just trade anyone at any given time without consulting them, it's great that it can swing the other way and the players can get what they want. However, every player seems, and my brother brought this up, so I don't want to take credit for this, but every single player wants to model their branding and their free agency decisions or trade decisions based on what LeBron did. And it's like, okay, I'm going to decide this. If I want to go play with these players, I'm going to engineer a way to do it. If I don't want to play for this team anymore, I'm going to get myself out of it. The only thing is LeBron would take the hit on the money side to be able to do that. He took less money to go to the Heat. He structured shorter deals with less guaranteed money. I was just looking at this for some reason, but his contract when he came back to the Cavaliers in 2014, do you know how much that man was getting paid a year then?
I'm going to say lower than his rookie contract.
He was getting paid $20 million a year. LeBron James, $20 million.
Yeah.
When we now live. Now, granted, that's CBA and everything and TV contracts, but whatever. We live in a world now where you could have 3 LeBron James for less than a couple of years, right? Like $20 million a year. That's what he took those shorter contracts. He took the hit on that. He never really signed any long-term deals. So LeBron was never the highest paid player in the NBA. But he had his freedom to do whatever he wants. Some players like Dame want their cake and eat it too. They both want all the money that the CBA grants you for staying with your team, but then also the freedom to say, all right, well, 4 years, it's a 4-year deal, but into year 1, I'm asking out. And like,
right. And then when you do that, that puts people in a weird position because now somebody's got to fit that bill.
Yeah.
And now your choices become very limited.
Yeah. And they don't think of this because Dame, you have to essentially tear down somewhat of the heat to be able to get there, rather than if you never signed that extension with the Trailblazers, which at the time, I think every single person was like, why did you do this? When it seems like you've had your foot out of the door, but he signs it, right? And now you got to give up $50 million worth of contract just to get this dude, not to mention the picks, when if he didn't sign that contract, became an unrestricted free agent, you can decide where you go. You could take less money. You could join the Heat, and they don't have to give up Tyler Hero. They don't have to give up Gabe Vincent. They don't have to give up Max Strus. But you handcuff yourself because you both want the financial freedom, but then also that player freedom too. And it's like, unfortunately, we don't live in a world where you get everything that you want. So you got to sacrifice one. And players like Dame, players like somewhat to an extent James Harden, they don't want to do it. They want to get paid as maximum as they can, but then also be able to dictate essentially from year to year where they're going to play. And I'm all for player empowerment. Like I said, I think they should have more power than these general managers have had for decades in this league. That being said, everything takes a little bit of sacrifice, and Dame not sacrificing that contract extension a couple years ago, that's why we're in this waiting game now. And even if you do get to the Heat, that Heat team is a worse version of itself from last year because all those players that they had to let go.
Well, we're seeing that now. Like, that's been the case for a couple of years. Like, even, I mean, look at Brooklyn and what Brooklyn had to give up to get every single one of those stars. Like and now they're just trying to
to
claw
turn
their
it.
way back in. And now Phoenix is doing the exact same thing, and they're cleaning house just to say, it's like, okay, yeah, you still have Devin Booker there, but like look at how little you have on the bench now.
Yeah.
Like that will come back to bite you, especially with people who are prone to injury. Like let's not pretend that Kevin Durant is like, not injured every single year at this point.
Yeah. Both. I think Booker missed some time last 2 years too, correct? He missed time, but
Yeah,
he's young.
you
He
missed a
doesn't really
little
count.
time.
KD missed over 20 games. And
then now they're gonna have Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal, who hasn't played a full season, I think, in like 8 years. It's you would think that everyone would have looked at the Nets particularly and the Lakers from the past 2 seasons like, yeah, this isn't a great idea. But Ishbia is a new owner, and as the reporters say, every time you want to make a statement, you come in, you spend all this money, you got KD, now you got Bradley Beal. He's going to learn pretty quickly. All the other owners are going to be looking at him like, yeah, we told you. And it's going to be, now I will say, it will be entertaining. And no matter the result, whether they win or they lose, it's going to be funny. But for Ishbia, if they don't win, he will see it as a gigantic waste of time and money. And we could have told you that. Like, there's just you can't buy championships. No team has done it. It's impossible because there's humans involved here. And if this doesn't match up well, including DeAndre Ayton, whether he wants to be there or not, you're not going to just win a championship just because you compile the most, superstars on NBA 2K. Like, it just doesn't.
No, you need an actual team. Like it's a team sport.
Team sport. Yeah, there you go.
Like I know everyone's always everyone will always point out like the handful of examples where, oh, it worked. Oh, well, you just mentioned LeBron. Like, yeah, you had all-stars on the Heat, but you also had great role players on the Heat. You had guys who bought into the Heat culture.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that, I mean, look, they did lose a couple finals.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't even get that far in some cases.
Yeah, they got one of those 2 championships was a shot by Ray Allen, right? Even though that's the year their bench was falling off too. And in the following year, they just had nothing left. And obviously they lost. And you fast forward to the Lakers, when they win the championship, what do they have? 2 stars. The next 2 years, not the year after, but the 2 years following that, they bring in Russell Westbrook. Oh, we're going to do the 3-star thing. It does not work. And then they revert back to it halfway through this season.
Now all of a sudden they go on a run. Finals.
Then you get to the conference finals. Now, granted, you got dog walked in the conference finals, but that team making it to the conference finals based on where they started.
A top 4 team in the league at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's clear what works here, but you can't really tell rich dudes what to do. And again, we win in this, Vin, in that this feels sort of, not really, sort of like the Warriors in 2017, where it's just going to be firepower from them. But I don't think it's going to lead to a championship, even though their bench is pretty decent. I just don't think this is going to work out. I could be proven wrong, but Ishbia is gonna learn, I think, pretty quickly. It's not about how much talent you can compile. It's do you have a coach? Do you have a general manager, whoever it may be, to make the pieces fit?
And they got rid of the coach.
And they got rid of the coach. And you're doing this with a championship coach, so let's not undersell Frank Vogel. But his first year working with these dudes. And the last team gave up on him too. And I don't know if that's indicative of him or what it's like to just work for the Lakers and work with LeBron James. But either way, Frank Vogel's got to figure that part out. James Jones has to figure that part out. And if they're not capable of that, then you just got an expensive luxury bill, man. That's it.
Yeah, like all they had to do was look at something like Brooklyn, where I've said for years, as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I would gladly have taken KD and a bunch of guys who want to hoop with KD over wherever the hell that was.
Yeah.
But
imagine, Ben, the team that they had in the bubble plus Kevin Durant. That's enough.
That's the
with
team
the
I want.
maturation of all those dudes, save for D'Angelo Russell, but the maturation for all those dudes alongside Kevin Durant, you got a better chance than they ever had in those 365 days or whatever that they had, the three of those dudes.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to wait and see. We have to wait and see what happens. But I'm also waiting and seeing on when you're gonna be on Around the Horn next. So I'm gonna hand it off to you and you plug everything.
I got it. I'm trying to keep track. So Friday, what is it? July 22nd? What's the date? 19. Today's 19, 20, 21st. I'm likely to be on Around the Horn. It's not certain, but just watch out for that. I'm on ESPN Radio from 7 to 10 p.m. on Saturday, July 22nd. Beyond that, I'm not sure, but you can follow me on Twitter at 10Z Johnson. I can't remember it because I'm never on Twitter anymore. Or Instagram, MartenziEJ. Maybe I'll get on Threads. Maybe I'll get on Spill. Not at the moment. I'm a busy man. I got a 3-year-old. I can't keep up with it all, Ben. I'm getting old.
No, absolutely. And is anyone even on Blue Sky?
Blue Sky had his chance. It's even Spiel had it for like 2 seconds. But Threads, I think, has taken over. But I'm yet to sign up because unlike you people, I don't see any reason to trust Mark Zuckerberg than I do Elon Musk. So
there you go.
I'll wait on that one.
And you got an article on Andscape.
I do. I'm trying to think of what's that. Oh, yes. I went to the NBA Summer League. I saw Victor Wembanyama in person. He was great. Not the game I saw. He was not good in the first game, but he was good in the second game. I see it. Beware, people. He's only 19. This is going to work out. But what I went there for was in the 2023 draft in June, 2 players named after Kobe Bryant were drafted. Kobe Buffkin, who went to the Atlanta Hawks, and Kobe Brown, who was selected by the Clippers in the last pick of the first round. Excuse me. They're the first players named after him, but spelled Kobe, named after Bryant, to play in the NBA. They're the first Kobe's since Kobe retired in 2016. So, I just asked him about that, what it means for them, what it was like growing up with that name. As you can imagine, a kid growing up in the early 2000s with that name, that can bring you some attention. But the fact that they both then turned out to be NBA players, and not just NBA players, but first round draft pick NBA players, I thought was pretty fascinating. So I spoke with them about that. So it's called the coming era, the coming Kobe era in NBA.
There you go. So go check that out. And with all of that said, I'm going to take this man off the screen. And then, I didn't even have the banner up. Okay. For the next 5 seconds, that's all the social media stuff you're looking on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go follow the show over on, subscribe over on Apple, Spotify. Remember, Stitcher is going away. Don't really do that. But on social media, Twitter, at Oddball Podcast, at Mighty Vin, over on Instagram, at Vin Forte NYC. And with all that said, thanks to Martenzie Johnson once again. Hopefully we'll be doing a monthly spot. Hopefully I'll be back next month. I got a lot going on. But with all that said, I'll see you back here next week.